Welcome to your practice for today. This 30-minute practice will focus primarily on hip opening. We'll be going through a lot of different mobility, strengthening, and stretching out of the hip joint. Let's go ahead and get started. Come into a comfortable, tall, seated position. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep, full breath in and a long sigh. Keep doing that. Deep breath in. Generous sigh. Until you feel like the sigh is no longer needed. And then you'll simply breathe in more deeply through the nose, both on the inhale and on the exhale. Gather your palms at your heart center, taking a moment to acknowledge your time, your energy, your commitment to get on the mat, to move and breathe in ways that help you connect more deeply to yourself and in turn more deeply to those you come into contact with. The journey in our hips can be an emotional one. You may notice big releases of joy, ease, gratitude, or even some despair or fear or sadness. Whatever shows up, try to be with it and breathe through. Breathe like the river, moving the energy through into another space that's creating a wide open opportunity to move and breathe more freely upon completion. Let's Om together, uniting our space with our voice around us, within us, and between us. Inhale. Om. Slowly blink your eyes to open as you release your hands. And we'll start today with a little bit of mobility to get the hips fluid and moving. Come on up to your feet. As you come up to your feet, we'll start from the ground up. Soles of the feet parallel, so that's the outer pinky toe edges to the heels. Come onto one toe mound and then roll the ankle. Now, this is starting at the base and then working its way up. You might hear a little fireworks in your feet. Totally normal as long as there's no pain, no pressure points. Go the other way. Notice that as I move the foot, the knee creates a rotation of the femur and the hip socket. It's a gentle awakening to invite some synovial fluid into this area. If we've been sitting for a while, do this first. Come onto your other foot, roll the ankle one way, breathe deeply, and then roll the ankle the other way. Try to look on the horizon when you're standing rather than down at your feet, so you're not pulling on the muscles of the neck. Now bring your feet right together, hands onto your knees, and circle the knees as one, noticing how you'll roll through the edges of the feet from inner to outer, outer to inner, and then go the other way. Deep breath. And pause. Now keep the hands on the knees, but open the knees to about that hip distance and then go in and out and in and out. Now if there's any pain or pressure in the knees here, just make the circles smaller and gradually you'll grow them in time. But don't do anything that doesn't feel good in the knees. Knees are really key to keep happy. Go the other way, just a couple. And because the knees are so connected to our hips, knee problems can sometimes reside in our hips. Now step your feet even wider, toes out, heels in. Now you can keep your hands on your hips, but I like to interlock the fingers, let the elbows come down, bend your left knee, keep your head, your heart, and your hips all lined up. Pull your hips back, and then bend your right knee, straighten your left leg, and come back up to center. And bend left, pull back, bend right, and back through center. Do 3 more. Big breath. And pause at the top. If your hands are interlocked, maybe switch the interlock just to switch up the brain connections to the body and go the other way. Remember to not leave the head or the heart behind. So as you come across, and back up. 3 more. And really wait till the leg extends so that you're not releasing more quickly. Last one. And top. Hands to hips. Turn the toes a little more in. They can still turn slightly out here. And I just want you to circle your hips on their own. Now, fluid in the joints is so key. So all we're doing is inviting a little movement before we ask for some deep stretches. Go the other way. It's like you're stirring a pot with your tail. Soft knees, strong legs. And you may also find that as you release your hips, your neck and your shoulders feel more free. Excellent. Now come to the top edge of your mat. Feet parallel, hip distance. Inhale, sweep wide. Exhale, forward fold. Halfway lift. And step your left foot back into a lunge. Lower your back knee. Now, if you have props here, it's nice to have and use them to lift your heart a little higher, which keeps your head, heart, and hips all in that same trajectory, a natural curve. Now, all we're going to do is invite again a little movement. So back with the hips and then forward with the hips. You can slide your blocks back or even make them a little higher and allow for some movement of the femur in the hip socket. Back and forth. For 3 more movements. My back toes are staying tucked, but if it feels better for you to point your toes, you can. It does change the stretch slightly. Good. Now, on the last one, we're going to stay back, and you'll toe heel your foot towards the middle of your mat. And then turn your toes out towards the right, and then bend your knee in the direction of your toes into a lizard. If you're not sure what I mean, I'll show you from the front side. So we're back, toe heel to center. Turn the toes up and out, and then pull forward. Bring your hands ahead of your toes and come down lower towards the ground. Now your palms can come right to the floor, and the knee is bending out behind that tricep. Now the little bit of the arch is showing here, and that's a good thing. If anything, you want the foot more flat, but you don't want the ankle, ooh, ouch, sickle all the way in. So find a space here and breathe. Staying more stationary, more static. But as you're breathing, you're actually not static at all. Your inner body is working to find that balance at center. If you have a little fire and you want a little more heat, you'll lift your back knee. Maybe even pull your hips slightly up so they're at shoulder height. If it's a lot on your hands, work on lifting one hand and then lifting the other hand. Maybe eventually, knee up or down, you'll lift both hands. But don't force that. You'll really feel when you lift one hand how that changes your pose. Work towards it in time. Repeat this practice over again. Good. Now pull your hips back again. Toes are turning forward. Now you're more on a tightrope, so you're going to walk your foot right in line with your back knee and then bend your front knee again. Grab one of your props, maybe both, and lean out towards the right side. So from the front, align. Toes and knee are on the same line. You're reaching across, lengthening in that direction, and then lifting your back knee and start to straighten your front knee. Now it might not get straight, and the more we pull the right hip back or lean our heart off to that angled side, the more we'll feel this in the outer IT, the outer hip. Now you have a little more weight in your block or in your hands on the floor, but breathe here. You've got it. Back leg nice and strong. Right hip pulling back. Feel like you're lifting out of your waist and over to the right. And begin to bend your front knee, land your back knee, and unwind. You'll come back into a straight lunge. Now the foot way out to the far side, palms down inside that front foot. So if you're in this lunge, you can bend the elbows and come forward if there's space. Otherwise, hands on blocks or palms flat on the earth, maybe even fingertips, so getting a little bit taller. Coming at the hip here, a lot of different angles with purpose. Now lift your back knee, step back into downward dog, and just pedal out your legs and feel the difference from left to right. Gradually walk your feet to the top of your mat, lift up halfway, bow forward, feet are hip distance apart, then press to rise, reach for the sky, and hands through heart center. Let's try the other side now. Reach up, inhale, forward fold, exhale. Halfway lift, and slide your right foot back into a straight lunge. Again, bringing the hands onto blocks or onto fingertips on either side of your front foot, and then moving your hips back and forth. Now my front foot stays flat through this transition, so try not to let your toes come up. Keep your big toe anchored and your hips tracking straight. The tendency here, if you're tight, is your hips going to wing out to the side when you come forward. So do your best. If you've got a mirror or a screen, you can see yourself. Otherwise, really track the hip moving forward and back. Good. The next time you come back, pause. Toe heel the foot towards the center of your mat. Turn the toes out to about 11 o'clock. And then let your knee and your toes go in that direction, walking your hands forward. Back toes again can be pointed or tucked. And as you come forward, lizard here, bend your elbows out to the sides, getting your head and your heart lower with your hips. Or keep the arms straight, maybe lift your hips up to align with your shoulders. Then both come down together as you bend the elbows. Whichever one you're in, stay and breathe. Lizard, if you're a runner, you'll really feel this. And if it's too intense, back off by simply pulling back a little. If you want more, come forward. Try not to let the head hang, but keep the eyes looking over the edge of your mat so that there's no creases in the neck, front, back, or sides. Now start to pull your hips back. You can bring your blocks with you, turn the toes forward, but now walk your foot until it lines up with your back knee. Tuck your back toes under. Bring your block over towards the left side. Now you'll lift your back knee and then work your left leg straighter and straighter and straighter. So I'm angled off towards the left side of the mat. I might wiggle my block a little further back under my shoulders. You don't want to be too close and you don't want to be too far. You want to have that nice stable platform. Your front foot is flat. Your back heel has the ability to lift and lower. And you're tugging your left hip back by straightening your left leg. Now, if the knee latches out, unlatch it just enough that you feel the muscles working here. Breathe fully. Crown of the head off on that angle, shoulders back. We're asking a lot of our hips here to stay long and strong and the muscles that support them. Begin to bend your front knee, Bend your back knee as you come down, toe heel your foot all the way over to the left edge, and either on or off your props. Palms are inside the front foot, and you're pulling forward. So you're essentially widening the angle of the hip now. Your knee hugs that outer right tricep, and if the back is rounding, bring the props back into play. Get a little bit taller. If you don't have blocks, use books or cans, cans of soup or sauce. Those things can give you just a little bit of height, but some stability. Now from here, we're going to lift the back knee, tuck the back toes, step back, downward dog. We should feel a little more balance left to right. Now we'll take a classic half pigeon position for the outer hips. You'll bring your right knee to your right wrist and the right foot up the left edge of the mat. Now there is a tendency here to roll out or roll in. Now, if this is a lot on your knee, you can roll out and take deer pose. And deer pose is creating these two 90-degree angles in the legs and then moving forward over your right leg. In half pigeon, the leg stays straight back and both hips hover. So though they're moving down towards the floor, and you can move forward with your heart, you're not dropping on one side and not over pulling the left hip either, because that's actually escaping the stretch you're seeking. You can stack your fists to rest your forehead or stack a block and keep the head, the heart, and the hips all on the same trajectory. I'll be here for about a minute. Stay connected by pressing into the top of the foot behind you or the toes tucked under, and then releasing again, but keeping some energy in that back leg. You may feel a lot in this hip. Try not to let it take you down the road of question or story, but just to stay present to what you feel. A minute never sounds like a long time, but sometimes it can feel like a long time. Stay with the breath. And start to press your way back up into a downward facing dog release or a tabletop position. If you've taken any other option here, again, stretch out. Then opposite side, left knee to left wrist, left foot up the right side, and then walking the hip back. Option to roll into deer pose to protect the knees, or squeeze that right hip a little more forward, come into your half pigeon. Again, we're here for 1 minute, but set up as if you're going to be here for a lot longer. Support the head, soften the shoulders, release the rib cage. Try to breathe into the ribs behind you, like you're inflating two balloons towards the ceiling. Remembering that what you focus on grows. So if it's a healing quality to the hip, to what you feel, focus here on sending joy, sending light, sending an energy that is going to heal as you move forward. Now gradually start to climb your way back out. Come into your downward dog or tabletop, pedal out the feet. And then this next one, you'll come to all fours and you have the option to enter this way. I'm going to show it here, or you can come into a seated position and do one leg at a time. So I'll show both. Right knee between the wrists, left toes tucked, Gomukhasana legs, right foot opens, walk your hands forward till your left knee tucks behind your right, and then you're sitting between your heels. Now this is a great place that if you're tight here, sitting up on a block, helping to find the ground because it might seem really far when we come down. Option 2 is if you're already in a seated position and the knees are sensitive, just take your right leg over and leave your left leg out in front. But keep the foot in flexion and awake. So wherever you've ended up here, on a prop or not, sit nice and tall. And now take your rib cage and lean forward towards your thigh, towards your upper knee. You can have hands on your feet or hands on the floor. Be light in your fingertips. Be strong in your breath. And again, try not to let the head dive forward. And if anything, pull the jaw back so you feel this nice long muscle of the neck from the front of the collarbone to the back of the skull get long. And there will always be a subtle discomfort somewhere in the hip that kind of creeps in over time. Try to stay with it. It will dissipate eventually. Give yourself the space to just feel and breathe. Now lift up back to tall center. Now you can come out by releasing the legs out in front of you, or if your knees are healthy, you can come forward, lift those hips back up, and then slide the legs back, re-entering on the other side. So I'll do that with you. Otherwise, legs out in front. Your right leg will be on top this time. So if you're bringing left knee forward first, right foot comes underneath, then you're opening to the side and sitting back. So the left leg is on top, right leg underneath, in case I said that incorrectly. Stay nice and tall. Gaze at the horizon. And then think of just moving your ribs forward. Now, sometimes when we think about moving our ribs forward, our head goes first and our ribs sink and drop. So I want you to think about your bottom ribs coming up and forward. You can hold the feet or hold the front knee or even bring your fingertips to the floor. Keep the breath big. And what you feel, you heal. So don't shy away from, don't push away from, don't try to escape what you feel. Be with it. Acknowledge it. This is what will reduce the sensation, the power that it has over you. Take another deep breath here. Then gradually lean back. This time you'll stretch the legs out in front, tap them out. And we'll take one more for these outer hips. I know we're really putting a lot into these outside edges, but it is so important. You'll take your right ankle on top of your left thigh, flexion in your foot, lean back, slide your left foot to flat, and stay here. Now you have the option to stay here, And I like to, with the spine nice and tall, add a little bit of rock from center towards opening the knee to the side or the foot towards the floor. This is actually eventually going to open the door for what we know as Agni Stambhasana, which is double fire log position. And if that's available to you, you'll walk your left foot all the way over. And as you bring the knee down, this will bring you more upright. If you're feeling a little contorted as you come in here, bring a support for the bottom knee, bring your foot a little closer to you, and then gradually sit up into that tall seat. Otherwise, hands still behind. Now again, you're still in either variation, moving your ribs, bottom ribs, towards the front leg, the leg that's on top, your right leg. Take a breath. Let it go. Lean in. And if you're doing this for the first time, stay in the first variation. As you come through this practice numerous times, take a different variation. Keep peppering in something that challenges you, that pushes your edges, but without force, that acknowledges where your growth phase is. Slowly start to lean back, stretch both legs around in front, tap out the legs, and then come to the other side. So you'll go left ankle on top, hands behind to keep tall, right foot to flat, pause, nice and tall. Knee can open and center. Knee can open and center. And if you're finding that is giving you some access, you can just keep that watery quality in the hip going. Otherwise, walk the foot over, see if there's some space there, as long as the knee is happy. Block underneath that right knee, perhaps giving you the space that you need. And the little ankle bone, we don't want to bring it inside. That sickles the ankle. We want to keep it just outside. So there's no pressure on the leg, but there's no wrinkles inside the ankles. You can lean back here if this is a lot. If you're starting to move a little more forward, think bottom ribs towards left shin. Keep breathing. Eventually, you start to wiggle that block out, and you're noticing that the weight of your body is starting to open up. Often when I first land in this pose, I can't not have the block. And then very soon after, having done it for a while, the block isn't needed. But there's still work to be done to bring that top knee down. A few more breaths here. Try not to let the head dive forward. If anything, pull the jaw back in line with your shoulders and keep leaning the center of your heart forward first. My teacher, Kristen, would always say, if your head and your heart were in a race, you want your heart to win. So keep leaning your heart forward and tug back on the chin slightly. Good. Now start to lean back. Stretch out your legs as you tap them out in front. Bend at the knees and recline onto your back. Now, a really great way to finish your hips is to grab a prop, if you've got one. A cushion will do. Tuck it underneath your hips. Hands onto your body or palms open. Bring one leg up to the sky at a time. And we'll do a little decompression, legs up, waterfall pose. Make sure your feet are not over your face, but your feet are over your hips. Knees are soft, legs are relaxed. Shake them out if you need to. And close your eyes. Deep breath in. Sigh. Inhale. Exhale. When you're ready, you'll bring your knees in, one foot to the floor and then the other. Slide out from your block so your hips come to neutral. And then stretch your legs long, letting that fresh oxygenated blood flow flush back into the lower limbs. Take a minute here. Now, if this is feeling really good, stay here. You're feeling called to move and come back up to a tall seat. Do so gradually and with your own pace. As you press your way back up, gather your hands at your heart center and bow your head inward. Acknowledge in your own way gratitude for opening the space, for allowing you to walk more freely. I bow to your light. Namaste. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you soon.